Here's what Steve from Las Vegas and Brian from Tucson had to say.
I don't want, to be hired just because I'm black. I want to get hired because I deserve the job.
Oh, you ain't got to worry about it. Nah, you ain't got to worry about it. You're not going to be hired. Yeah, because you're black. Yeah, that's what they're saying that you're supporting right now. Go ahead with your BS. Hey, shout out to all of our members and subscribers here on the channel that have helped us get all the way to 350,000. My name is Reese Waters, and I'm troubled. Now, we have seen FAFO moments from all corners of these United States. We've seen it from Latinos for Trump.
I will vote for Donald Trump.
Conference in Doral Monday, Venezuelan Americans denounced the Trump administration and South Florida Republicans.
More than betrayed, beyond betrayed. They used us. They actually, during the campaign, and I don't want to make this political, but during the campaign, the elected officials from the Republican Party, they actually told us that he was not going to touch the documented people.
We've seen it from Black Maga.
Instead of talking about the economy, I was fielding questions on whether or not the Trump administration wanted to stop commemorating Black History Month, Women's History Month, Hispanic Heritage Month.
This is the directive at a lot of the agencies, but DOD today put out a memo saying no more celebration of history months.
Or Holocaust Remembrance Day or MLK Day.
So I was fielding all of these questions. So when people said that they voted for Donald Trump because they were concerned about, the price of eggs and all of these type of things, because of Donald Trump's own doing, we're having to have this conversation about DEI. DEI, for many people, and I call them the woke right, it has become a stand-in for being black and unqualified. And what I would like for the Trump administration to do, Susie Wiles, I love her, never met her, want to meet her one day. I want them to ask the team, what was our message coming out of this week? And if they say that they felt as if it was successful, then we're going to have a very long 4 years.
Can I make a provocative argument here? What if Donald Trump also won because of the people who think that black people and trans people and women are taking things that belong to them? Isn't it possible that he actually won for that reason?
We've seen it from white women.
I'm so surprised how many people didn't know that with the DEI rollbacks, that meant that there would also be rollbacks for specifically women. I don't know what y'all thought. What, you thought, first of all, you thought these men respected us? What, just because you're a white woman? And I get, I'm a white woman, right? But, most political progress for women has come at the hands of women of color. Not to say that there haven't been prominent white women, but, when they're talking about, diversity in the workforce, they're talking about you. And now they're talking about, getting rid of things like Black History Month and Women's History Month. All the white women are suddenly what? This applies to us? I don't know if you know this, but they view you as someone they can oppress. I don't know why we're suppressed. This also means that, it opens the door for them to allow for things for you to be fired if you're pregnant, for them to take away more things like maternity leave and stuff like that. Y'all need to stop associating DEI with just black people or other people of color.
We've even seen it from farmers.
But what you guys are saying is, well, you didn't vote the way I did. You didn't want to listen back in November. Well, nobody was hearing you because you're not on our FYP. And this is an opportunity that you guys are fumbling because there's people that are willing to listen to you. I have 40,000 followers that we're farm talk. We have nothing to do with politics. We don't do politics, but there's people that are willing to listen. I'm speaking out about what's happening to me, how the negative effects of Trump's signing the executive orders has affected me, but you guys are shutting it out because you're overwhelming the comments with the fuck around and find outs and the hoping of failure for other Americans. And then at that point, all of my followers, they want nothing to do with anything that you're saying because you're just hateful people. And it's not because you're left, it's just because you're being hateful.
All right. Who's next on the Summer Jam screen?
Insight tonight into a group of voters that helped swing the 2024 presidential race. Those that voted for Democrats in prior elections, but for Donald Trump this past November.
So these are Democrat voters who switched to Trump for the one So you rejected Trump in 2016, but what you saw from him in the last 4 years made you was it the insurrection? The felonies? You just saw Kamala Harris. Is that what happened? You were all set on supporting Biden, but you couldn't abide Kamala Harris. Is that it?
The analysis comes from recent focus groups conducted by Republican strategist Sarah Longwell. She joins us now with more on what led these voters to shift political allegiances. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So our team pored over the hours of tape that you recorded with this group of voters, and a common refrain seems to be, as expressed by this group, that at least Donald Trump is doing something. Here's what Monty from New York had to say.
I think he's running the country like a business. So what happens if management steps into a business for the first time? Shut everything down. Let's see the books. Let's look at everything. Let's see what needs to stop being spent on and what. So I understand that. It sounds scary, the funding freeze. And I know it does like shake up a lot of industries or a lot of places. But it's something that needs to be happening. Like,
keep playing the video. Just keep playing.
How did this group respond to some of the specific actions President Trump has taken? The dismantling of government agencies, the mass deportations, the pardons for January 6th offenders?
Yeah, well, look, those are all different issues. But I think one of the things that you have to understand about a lot of these voters is that they can't disentangle all of the crazy news stories, right? So they tend to just take it in general as an assessment of, does it feel like things are moving? Does it feel like things are happening? And I do think contrasted with a lot of frustrations I heard from voters just going back, 6 months ago with Joe Biden was, hey, I don't feel like I hear him, don't feel like I see him. And so the way that Donald Trump just kind of gets in people's faces and, hits people with tons of information, tons of action, they're not necessarily there to adjudicate, is it a good action or a bad action? They just know stuff is happening.
That's a hoof print. Did you look at a hoof print, that, Paul?
No, that looked like a fist print.
Right? No, sir. No, sir. Ain't no fist touch my face. Yeah. No, sir.
So you're not there to adjudicate whether it's a good action or a bad action. You just know that stuff is happening. So therefore, you support it because stuff is happening. You didn't need a president. What you needed was a friend.
And so they say, well, I'm seeing ICE trucks in my community, and I'm glad. It means they're doing something about immigration. And, the January 6th pardons, that's such an interesting one to me because people don't like the January 6th pardons, but it's not a deeply held conviction. They're sort of like, well, I wish he hadn't done it, but, whatever.
See, no, you don't get to do that. No. You don't get to do that. Now, this is as bad as the farmers video where they try to claim, oh, I'm not into politics, but you made nothing but right turns.
We're farm talk. We have nothing to do with politics.
So let me get this straight. ICE trucks are in my neighborhood. I'm glad he's doing something about immigration. Well, I don't like that he just gave blanket pardons to all of these people who tried to overthrow our government. A lot of whom have gotten rearrested for some pretty nasty things already.
There's been a predictable reminder of the fact that a tiger doesn't change its stripes. As surprise, surprise, people who chose to storm the nation's capital and beat the heck out of police officers also brought with them a really bad criminal history and future. And in the days since the pardons, we've seen a number of headlines highlighting how some January 6 pardonees have already found themselves rearrested or are at large. Or, as in one case in Indiana, killed by police during a traffic stop after allegedly resisting arrest.
I didn't see that one. I didn't. Did that happen? Did he do that? No, you don't get to do that. Mm-mm. Hey, baby. Yeah, I got you some flowers. Uh-huh. Where was I last night? Did last night happen? Did that? Was last night a thing?
Like, it's just one of those things that doesn't sit with them as a really important issue. And so I think that right now Donald Trump is benefiting with the people who kind of took a flyer on him because they were frustrated with Joe Biden and the Democrats. And they're saying, okay, he gets a honeymoon period. I'm waiting to see what he does. And so far, I like what I'm seeing because what I'm seeing is movement.
So he gets a honeymoon period, and that honeymoon period just happens to coincide with that first 100 days where they're laying all of the groundwork for their Project 2025 agenda. Yeah. So the honeymoon period is the entire bag. Okay, I got you. I don't care for the new Captain America. Nah, I don't care for it. I mean, I'm gonna go see it. I'm gonna give it a honeymoon period of 2 hours. I'm gonna go in. I'm gonna sit there for 2 hours. If I don't like it after 2 hours, I'm out.
This group, how do they know what they know? What are their information sources? How are they getting their news?
Yeah, well, I mean, even over the years that I've been doing focus groups, which is really since Donald Trump came on the scene. So in the last 8 years, I've just seen such a total shift in the media environment and the way that people consume media. So for a long time, you really did hear people say that they were still getting a lot of their news from local news. But now it's just almost entirely podcasts, scrolling on their phone. They catch bits on social media. They don't live on Twitter or X or necessarily social media platforms, but maybe they follow things like about wellness or about health or about working out.
I know you didn't just throw out wellness. And working out. So you mean to tell me that the honeymoon period extends through putting RFK Jr. In charge of health and human services. But mostly I'm into wellness. You know what I mean? I'm really into wellness and health. Oh, did he put RFK on top of that? Oh, I didn't even know. I'm in my honeymoon. You know what I mean? I'm in my honeymoon. Yeah.
And they get their politics kind of infused in that, or they get politics infused in the sports podcast they listen to. And so the way that people are sort of putting together their information sources now is just pulling a little bit from here and a little bit from there in this very fragmented media environment.
You also asked them about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, which President Trump campaigned heavily against and is now rooting out. What stands out to me is the way in which this group seems to have adopted Donald Trump's view on this, that diversity and competence are somehow mutually exclusive.
And thank you so much for that framing, by the way. He framed that exactly right.
Here's what Steve from Las Vegas and Brian from Tucson had to say.
I don't want to be hired just because I'm black. I want to get hired because.
Play it on you. Play it on you.
Here's what Steve from Las Vegas and Brian from Tucson had to say.
I don't want to be hired just because I'm black. I want to get hired because I deserve the job.
Oh, you ain't got to worry about it. No, you ain't got to worry about it. You're not going to be hired. Yeah, because you're black. Yeah, that's what they're saying that you're supporting right now. Go ahead with your BS.
At the same time, I can understand why, in certain career fields or certain industries, there might be a need for more inclusion of diversity.
Okay, what are those? What are the fields that Trump and MAGA has said need to be more inclusive of diversity? Just anything. And just go ahead and throw it out. No, take your time. Take your time. You also say you don't want to be hired because you're black. You want to be hired because you're good at the job. So give me some black people that MAGA has disagreed with, but ceded they were good at the job. Yeah. I don't agree with that Jasmine Crockett, but she's good at what she does. Is that what they say? Is that what they say? That's where they go with it. With the fire department in Los Angeles, did they say, well, I think they focused a little bit too much on diversity, but at least they were good at the job? Was that where they went with it? I'll do you one better. How about the plane crash that he said was a fault of DEI without any evidence of DEI? Did they go with we needed the people that were good at the job, maybe some more diversity? Is that where they went with it? Matter of fact, give me any instance they have ever gone with that.
But I'm not for including the diversity at the risk of having quality workers.
When we're talking about government places like fire department, when we're talking about things that are there to save lives, right? You want the best of the best, right? I want the best firefighter. Of all the firefighters, I want the top ones if I'm going to be safe.
Oh, I get it. I get you. So you got to have the best of the best when you're here to when people's lives on the line, you got to have the best of the best. So it's best of the best. Huh?
Today at a cabinet meeting, they appear to have convened sort of mostly just for the cameras at the White House.
It's best of the best. Huh? Best of the best.
Attention turned to the exploding outbreak of measles that started in West Texas and has now spread at least into New Mexico. It's now at least 124 cases. A child has died, an unvaccinated school-aged child who was hospitalized as of last week in the Lubbock area. That child has now passed away.
Is this best of the best? This best of the best right here?
Robert F. Kennedy Jr. really is Donald Trump's idea of the best person in the whole country to lead the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, which is responsible for dealing with this kind of crisis.
Best of the best.
Secretary Kennedy today attempted to give an update on the measles outbreak in front of the cameras, but almost every single thing he said about it was wrong.
Yeah, that's best of the best.
He said, quote, "It's not unusual. We have measles outbreaks every year." Like this is a normal thing. I should mention for context, in all of last year, we had 285 measles cases in the United States. The year before that, for the whole year in the whole country, we had 59 cases. 59 cases. 59 cases, the whole country, the whole year. This one outbreak is already 124 cases and growing explosively, and a child has died. This is the largest measles outbreak in Texas in at least 30 years. Inexplicably, in his string of untrue statements about this ongoing measles epidemic that he is now responsible for fixing, Secretary Kennedy also misstated the number of deaths.
We are following the measles epidemic every day. I think there's 124 people who have contracted measles at this point, mainly in Gaines County, Texas. Mainly, we're told, in the Mennonite community. There are 2 people who have died, but we're watching it, and there are about 20 people hospitalized, mainly for quarantine. We're watching it. We put out a post on it yesterday, and we're going to continue to follow it.
Local health authorities say it is not 2 people who have died. It is 1 person who has died, an unvaccinated school-aged child. Why he thinks it's 2 people who have died and not 1, we don't know. Also, the people who are hospitalized are not being hospitalized for quarantine, as he described it, which makes it seem like they're fine. They're just being kept in a room, right? No, they've been hospitalized for respiratory distress and other serious and potential fatal symptoms of measles, which can kill you and which has already killed a child in this outbreak. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. wrote a whole book about the measles, in which he said that, quote, measles outbreaks have been fabricated to create fear. He wrote at the website of his anti-vaccine group that getting measles is actually good for you. He says it's good for your heart to get measles. Reduces the risk of some cancers and heart disease and stuff. It's great. Donald Trump put him in charge of Health and Human Services for the whole country. And that means he's in charge of taking care of this explosive measles outbreak in West Texas and New Mexico. Good call. Safe hands?
No, but see, they get a pass. They get a pass because Darren Beattie said we need competent white men to be in charge. So you can't know if somebody is competent until they get on the job. But one thing you can know is that they are a white man. So at least you know what I mean? At least you hit 2 out of 3 before the job even starts.
So how did this issue in particular resonate among those voters you spoke with?
Well, look, I got to tell you, this is something I hear across the board from voters, and it includes a lot of Democratic voters where they don't love, it's not just DEI. It's sort of, you hear a lot of these different words. Sometimes it's DEI, sometimes it's woke. But voters are they seem to want to push past this era of kind of segmenting people. And this is one where I think Democrats maybe just lost the cultural conversation a little bit on this, and voters, because there's a lot of voters who don't like the way Donald Trump talks about people or don't like the way that Republicans talk about people, but they'll still say things like, I just don't think there's, 1,000 genders, or I wish we talked less about these issues.
So let me get this straight. You don't like the way that Donald Trump and Republicans talk about people, but you object to something that was said on the left. Is that what I'm hearing? You don't like the way he talks about people, but you don't like a couple things that they said. So we're going to go with the guy who we don't like how he talks about anybody. Is that what I got? But I can't let you off the hook, Democrats. The fact you have people processing this information this way, when they have been this clear in their white supremacy, is a problem.
I want to focus on issues like the economy or on immigration.
Who talked the most about genders? Who talked the most about that? Huh? Because I couldn't ever watch a clip from Fox News during the election cycle where they didn't throw that in there somewhere. Who talked the most about that? So if they say it enough times and directed at the Democrats, then it becomes something that they talked about. Is that what I? One of the conclusions that I'm slowly coming around to, and looking at how difficult it will be to piece this back together, is I don't know that some of us deserve it. In fact, I know that a lot of us don't.
And so it's just something that falls flat with voters, not just Republican voters, but often voters across the board.
You mentioned the issue of gender, which President Trump often refers to as gender ideology. That also came up in these focus groups. Here is Karin from Arizona.
When my daughter was in the 5th grade, they had this whole conversation about what your pronouns are. And so, I was routinely, scolded for not respecting my daughter's pronouns as they, them. And I'm like, that's not something that's going to happen in this house. I gave birth to a daughter. It says it on her birth certificate. She's a girl. This is the same girl who wanted to be Spider-Man 3 years before that. So she doesn't have the capability of deciding what she wants for breakfast, let alone adding a penis.
Given the way that Donald Trump in particular and Republicans more broadly have really changed the parameters of the debate around some of these cultural issues.
They have also changed the parameters around the English language, because you started with a conversation about pronouns and you landed with adding a penis. That was not a Democratic voter. That is straight up Newsmax math right there. I know Newsmax math when I see it.
How does that complicate the effort that Democrats now have in trying to win back voters and trying to go on the offensive on some of these issues?
Well, it's a little complicated in the sense that, yes, you hear I hear a ton of voters talking this way, where the sort of new way that people are talking about gender and identity just doesn't sit well with them. At the same time, they do not like the cruelty. There are a lot of voters who say, look, I think Donald Trump's going too far in how he demonizes people or in how he talks about people. I don't think it's kind. I don't think it's decent. And so I think Donald Trump is going so far into DEI. I mean, the extent to which he blamed DEI, for example, for those horrific plane crashes in Washington, D.C., that is not something that lands with voters. And so I do think that Democrats should really focus on the places where Donald Trump is going to excess on these issues, where they are obsessing over them. I mean, right now, certainly Trump and his administration are doing far more rooting out things around gender ideology than they are on the economy.
Oh, well, that's going to be easy for the Democrats. They just have to find where he crossed the line over being cruel. He been that way. Yeah, he been that way. Ain't nothing new. Ain't nothing new. Ain't nothing new this time around. Not a thing. But yet apparently this was when these Democrats decided that they were going to hop over the fence. And now apparently are totally fine with everything that's going on in the administration.
And voters care much more about the economy than they do about sort of singling people out. And so I think Democrats have to figure out how to stop defending some things that are deeply unpopular, or even just focusing on things that are broadly unpopular with voters, and instead focus on things that matter. But I think it's fair for them to point out the places where Donald Trump is being unnecessarily cruel and targeting groups of people, because voters don't like that either.
So apparently these were Democratic voters who were deeply committed to the piece-by-piece deconstruction of the entire federal government and granting carte blanche to oligarchs. They were hiding those beliefs pretty deep. I would say, yeah, they were hiding those beliefs pretty deep. I didn't know about the Democratic coalition that wanted to leave the government in the hands of Elon Musk. I didn't. That's crazy. You know what I mean? They say we are not a monolith, and you learn something new every day. How about that? But of all of the times that I have sat in this chair and done epilogues after the election, this might be the most confused and dumbfounded I have ever been. Thank you guys so much for supporting the channel. We have reached a new subscriber milestone, and they're each significant in their own way.
You is kind, you is smart, you is important.
It's the community that's been built around this channel, whether it's you guys' comments and going back and forth during the premieres, or it's whether it's you guys' comments on the actual videos, or you guys sharing the content. Those are all things that have helped this channel reach the level that it is right now. And it is those things that will allow it to continue to succeed and thrive. So I just wanted to say thank you. Some of your comments and some of your emails, and by the way, if you want to email me, admin@ReeseWaters.com, if you want to make sure that I have to see something that you have to say, or if you have a suggestion for content, some of your comments and your emails have been so incredible. I actually will start responding to them, not just via the comments or via email, but here on the content itself, because it warrants that. Of course, if you would like to join this channel, there's a link to membership in the description box to all of the videos. And of course, be sure to check out my second channel, Way of Waters, where I'll be dropping content on a regular basis as well, trying to find some level of peace. That's where you first got me messed up. She gave him to him, another man, like I'm not gonna get roasted. I ain't found it yet. I'm looking for it. That's what the channel is for.